Welcome back, learners. In today's lecture, we will explore ChatGPT for sprint planning and retrospectives. So these two are very vital component for Agile uh, project management. So in this case, why this is important? Because setting your team up for success and ensuring that continuous improvement throughout your project. These two planning part, like sprint planning and retrospectives. So by integrating ChatGPT into these processes, you can enhance efficiency, clarity, and collaboration. So let's dive into how we can leverage this powerful tool. Let's continue lecture 17, ChatGPT for sprint planning and retrospectives. So we will cover like ChatGPT can be used to facilitate sprint planning and retrospective meetings, importance of these agile ceremonies in driving project success and continuous improvement, the role of sprint planning in agile. So we need to understand, let's start with sprint planning. Sprint planning is the foundation of each sprint in Agile, where the team comes together to define the sprint goals, prioritize tasks, and ensure that everyone is clear on what needs to be accomplished. This meeting sets the tone for the entire sprint, making it crucial that it is well structured and effective. ChatGPT can enhance this process by providing clarity, structure, and insights, helping your team plan their work more effectively. Using ChatGPT for sprint planning. So how ChatGPT can be used during sprint planning? So here are a few key ways. First case, like user story refinement. ChatGPT can help and detail user stories. They are well defined and actionable. For example, you could prompt ChatGPT with like refine this user story for upcoming sprint planning. So in that case, it will provide more precise version that is easier for the team to work with. We will come in the ChatGPT window here. Then another case like task breakdown. Once the user stories are refined, then ChatGPT can assist in breaking them down into actionable tasks. So this helps the team understand what needs to be done and how to approach the work. And another way, like effort estimation. So ChatGPT can also provide initial effort estimates for tasks, so aiding in sprint capacity planning. So this ensures that the team is not overcommitting and that the workload is balanced. So we will go this command here. I am going to ChatGPT window. So here you see one user story we have developed, asked for the ChatGPT for software development. So it generates a user registration feature for software development. So how the user story can be defined, like as a new user, I want to create an account using my email and a secure password so that I can log in and access the platform features. So acceptance criteria, there are 5 acceptance criteria it is generated. The user, for example, the user should be able to input a valid email and password for the security requirement. So what is the password legitimacy? The system should send a confirmation email with verification link. Then when user activate their account by clicking the email, then when the email is already registered, the user should receive an error message. And if the password does not fit the security criteria, an appropriate message should be displayed. So this is the user story. And I give this command prompt. So refine this user story for our upcoming sprint planning. But I give the command here. And it generates like the user registration feature. As a prospective user of the platform, I want to easily register on account using my email and the secure password so that I can access personalized feature after verifying my identity. So it generates the refined acceptance criteria email input validation, password requirements, then account creation, email confirmation, error handling, security, success scenario, and dependency consideration like email system is SMTP is configured and reliable. Work with the security team to ensure that password encryption is compliant with security standards. Test on various devices and browsers to ensure cross-platform compatibility. So this is an output we get from the using ChatGPT. Let's look at an example task breakdown with ChatGPT. So imagine you are breaking down a user story for a new feature. You could use a prompt like break down this user story into actionable tasks for the development team. So ChatGPT might generate a list of such tasks like design, coding, testing, and documentation. So let's go to ChatGPT window and see what is the case here. So already I generated this command here for your explanation. Please see that I give this prompt like break down this user story into actionable tasks for the development team, and you see there are different types of user registration feature, user story into actionable item task. It is generated for the development team like task 1 front end create registration form, description, and then subtasks. Then other tasks we see task 2 front end implement form validation. So description, what is the task, what are the subtasks, so validate email, validate password. Then we see the following other different tasks like task 3 backend setup user registration API. Then task 4 backend implement email verification workflow. So what are the subtasks associated? Then task 5 backend implement action activation API. Task 6 is backend error handling. Task 7 security password hashing and storage. By the way, you see for either of the tasks, description and subtasks are mentioned here. Task 8 rate limiting and brute force protection. Task 9 testing unit and integration testing. Task 10 like testing user acceptance user experience testing. Task 11 deployment go live. So this is the breakdown whatever you see for this task breakdown case here. Capacity planning and ChatGPT. So capacity planning is another critical aspect of sprint planning. So ChatGPT can assist by workload distribution. So analyzing team capacity and suggesting optimal workload distribution, ensuring that each team member's workload is manageable. Risk identification, highlighting the potential risks in the sprint plan based on workload and task complexity, and allowing the team to address this risk appropriately. And balancing commitments, like ensuring that the sprint commitments align with the team's capacity, reducing the likelihood of overcommitment. And here is an example here that prompt like analyze team capacity and suggest workload distribution for the next sprint, that means upcoming sprint. So we go to ChatGPT window, and for your reference I've already created in the ChatGPT prompt here like analyze team capacity and suggest workload for the next sprint. So it already gives the response here. Like to effectively analyze team capacity and suggest workload distribution, we need to consider the following key factors like team size, the number of developers and other team members like POA, DevOps, UX, UI, sprint duration, how long the sprint will be, like 1 week or 2 weeks, capacity per team member, the number of available hours each team member has, accounting for meetings, holidays, or other commitments. Like task complexity, how complex each task is, can be measured by story points or hours. Skill set, each team member's strengths and areas of expertise, like front end, back end, testing, etc. So steps to calculate capacity, sprint duration, example here, a 2-week sprint, that means 10 working days, each week 5 working days. Team member availability, assume each developer works 8 hours per day. So if there are 5 developers and each has full availability, the total available hours, 5 developers in the 8 hours per day into 10 days, so for 400 hours here. However, you should subtract the time for meeting like daily standards, sprint planning, retrospectives. Let's assume that 2 hours of meeting per day. So in that case, available capacity is 400 hours, and then 2 hours per day, 300 hours. So you can redistribute this case. So task estimation. So assign story points or estimate the time for each task. For simplicity, I will use time estimates here for the breakdown of the task from the previous user story. So workload breakdown or time estimates like front-end task. We explored in the earlier case of what are the tasks here. So task 1 like create registration from 8 hours, task 2 implement from validation 6 hours. So total front-end time 14 hours. Then back-end tasks like task 3 10 hours, task 4 12 hours, task 5 like 8 hours, task 6 hours. So total 36 hours here. Security and DevOps tasks like task 7 6 hours, task 8 rate limiting and this protection 8 hours, so total 14 hours. Testing tasks like 10 and 8 18 hours. Deployment is 4 hours. So workload distribution, what it mentioned, that front-end developers, task 1 8 hours, task 2 6 hours, so that 14 hours. Backend developers like task 3 10 hours, task 4 12 hours, task 5 8 hours. So it accordingly it just distribute the workload. QA engineer, DevOps, similar way. And capacity and assignment, you see front-end developer capacity. If you have one front-end developer with 60 hours available, they can easily complete 14 hours of front-end tasks with significant capacity left for reviewing, refactoring, or assisting other team members. Backend developer capacity also is calculates. Security DevOps engineer capacity, QA engineer capacity, adjustment based on team availability. So if there are capacity constraint, like a team member is on leave or has fewer hours available, so you can distribute the task further. So have the front-end developer assist the backend API testing, pair backend developers to collaborate on complex tasks. So in that case, it's suggested workload distribution, like task 1 and 2 14 hours, backend developer redistribute 22 hours, backend developer 2 14 hours, security 14 hours. So in this, it redistributed the task. So this is an overall idea for how can you capacity planning using ChatGPT. The importance of retrospectives in Agile. So ChatGPT can enhance your retrospective in several ways. Like first thing, that why this is very important, Agile, why this retrospective is used. It allows team to reflect on the sprint and identify areas for improvement, what went well, what went good, foster a culture of continuous learning and adaptation. And ChatGPT can facilitate retrospectives by summarizing discussions and identifying action items. So what are the ways actually it will facilitate here? Like first point, like facilitating discussions. So ChatGPT can help structure retrospective discussions and ensure all voices are heard. Identifying patterns. So by analyzing feedback, ChatGPT can identify recurring issues or successes, providing valuable insights for the team. And action item tracking. ChatGPT can summarize action items and track their implementation in future sprints, ensuring that team follows through on their commitments. So here we give summarize one example prompt I am mentioning here. like summarize our sprint retrospective and highlight key action items. If I go to the ChatGPT window, so I already give this prompt and I see that this is the output ChatGPT generates, like the sprint retrospective summary, what went well, team collaboration, meeting deadlines, successful deployment, QA efficiency, what did not go well. Some point did not go well in the sprint, like unexpected complexity in backend tasks. It details here. Communication gaps, what are the communication gaps here? Underutilized resources, and what can be improved, like better task estimation, clearer cross-functional communication, utilization of extra capacity that it mentioned, and what key action items it is going to mention, like improved task estimation process, what is the action, who is the owner, and what is the timeline, like implement in the next sprint, enhance communication between teams, utilize extra capacity, post-mortem for complex tasks, reduce task dependencies. So this is going to generate for this particular case we are discussing. Facilitating a retrospective with ChatGPT. Let's consider a scenario. Suppose you are conducting a retrospective after a particularly challenging sprint. So you can give the prompt which I mentioned here, like facilitate a retrospective meeting focusing on what went well and what did not, and suggest then based on the input, this retrospective is productive and leads to actionable insights. So let's go to ChatGPT window here. So I give this for a reference, like this prompt, facilitate a retrospective meeting focusing on what went well and what did not. See, it generates the response here, like facilitating a sprint retrospective meeting involves encouraging open communication and ensuring the team reflects on both the successes and areas for improvement. Here is the structure approach, running the retrospective, focusing on what went well and what did not. So you see that this is the meeting agenda, opening and purpose, 5 minutes. So welcome everyone, emphasize creating a safe space and encourage everyone to participate openly. Then it discussed like 15 minutes, like what went well. So prompt, like let's start with what went well during the sprint. Think about successes, big or small, what made this sprint successful for you and the team. Facilitation tips, like encouraging each team member to contribute at least one positive takeaway. Give everyone a chance to speak up culture. Then example notes here, like team collaboration was wrong and members help each other with blockers. We completed several tasks ahead of the schedule, which reduced last minute pressure. Deployment was smooth with no major production issues. The queue identified bugs early, which improved quality. Some, which is the negative part, that we'll discuss like 15 minutes, like what did not go well, like prompt. Now let's look at what did not go as expected or could be improved. And then facilitation tips, it gives an example notes here, an action item discussion, like 10 minutes, the prompt based on what we discussed, and there's this thing or what we can improve in the next sprint. Facilitation tips, use the following categories, example action items, and then finally closing 5 minutes, summarize the key takeaways and end on a positive note. So this is the outcome we have seen. And also the post meeting, document the retrospective, capture the discussion points and action items in a shared document board like Jira or Confluence, assign action items. This is the structure we have just discussed. Continuous improvement is a core principle of Agile, and ChatGPT can help to your track and sustain for these improvements. So that's why this title is Continuous Improvement with ChatGPT. So first case, like tracking progress. So ChatGPT tracks the progress of action items from previous retrospectives. Feedback loop. It can also collect and analyze ongoing feedback from the team to refine future sprint and retrospectives. Documenting lessons learned. So ChatGPT can automatically document lessons learned during retrospectives, creating a valuable resource for the team to reflect for the future. So prompt I'm giving here, I will show in the ChatGPT window also. Track progress on retrospective action items and update the team. So I'm going to ChatGPT window, and you see that I have given the prompt, and it generates the response here, like action item tracking process. Create a shared document or board. So use a tool like Jira, Trello, Confluence, even a shared spreadsheet to list the action items from the retrospectives. Ensure each action items has clear details, description, owner, due date, status, notes, track progress. Regularly check with the team members responsible for each item. Keep the status updated in the shared document. Here is an example of tracked item, like action item, like break down complex backend tasks, who is the owner, due date, in what is the status, and what is the notes comment. So improve communication between teams, utilize extra capacity effectively, post-mortem for complex backend tasks. So progress update for the team. So here is a simple update you can share with the team to keep them informed on the progress of action items. Like team update on retrospective action items. Hi team, here is an update on the action items during our last retrospective. Great progress so far. So you can mention here what it generates. Break down complex backend tasks, improve communication between teams, utilize extra capacity, post-mortem for backend complexity, next steps. So this is the output what we have seen here for this particular discussion. So far we have discussed how ChatGPT can facilitate sprint planning and retrospectives. So let's go over some best practices to ensure we get the most out of this tool. So we will discuss best practices for using ChatGPT in sprint planning and retrospectives. So what are the best practices we can follow here? Like the first case, like clear and specific prompts. So you need to make sure your prompts to ChatGPT are detailed and clear to get the most accurate outputs. Regular updates. Continuously update ChatGPT with project-specific information to improve its effectiveness. Team involvement. Engage your team in setting up and reviewing ChatGPT outputs to ensure that the tool meets their needs and enhances their work. Iterative refinement. Use feedback from your team to iteratively refine how ChatGPT is used. These processes, ensuring that it continues to add value. Common challenges and solution. So what are the challenges we see? That a generic outputs from ChatGPT, resistance to AI integration, so over reliance on AI. So what is the solution we are considering to address this? The solution is balance AI outputs with the team input and expertise. So you need to use your expert SME, whether it meets your effective solution or not. Let's look at a case study where ChatGPT was used in sprint planning and retrospectives. In the project, the team used ChatGPT to refine user stories, break down tasks, and facilitate retrospectives. The result was improved task clarity, more actionable retrospectives, and the smoother sprint planning process. This case demonstrates how integrating ChatGPT can lead to better outcomes and more effective efficient agile workflow. To recap, ChatGPT can be a powerful tool for facilitating sprint planning and retrospectives. It can help refine user stories, break down tasks, track progress, and ensure continuous improvement. By integrating ChatGPT into your agile practices, you can enhance efficiency, clarity, and collaboration within your team. I encourage you to experiment with ChatGPT in your own agile processes and see how it can help your team achieve even greater success. Thank you for joining me in this lecture. I hope now you have a clear understanding of how to use ChatGPT in your sprint planning and retrospectives. So we will continue this learning journey, and hopefully you will enjoy this learning journey in this course.